Hi, and welcome to Journey Forward with Jory Rose, where you will gain insights, tools, and inspiration to get unstuck and live your best life. Jory is a licensed marriage and family therapist with a passion for helping people cultivate awareness and authenticity so they can show up fully in all aspects of their life. And now, here's Jory.
Welcome back. So last episode, I talked about the reasons I knew I was stuck and how starting to see it for what it is was the beginning of how I was able to break free from all the challenges that was holding me back. It took me many years from holding on to that paragraph from the Oprah magazine to being able to incorporate change, but at least it was a start. And I think it's always about timing. I wasn't ready until I was ready. That article started the awareness in my mind of how to separate out my fears and thoughts from my automatic reactions to them. But my path to Journey Forward took many steps, requiring patience as it all unfolded, along with the acceptance that I didn't necessarily know where it would lead me. So I get this question a lot. Okay, so I'm being aware, but now what? What do I do with this awareness? Well, for me, I had to start to learn how to slow down. I had to start to learn how to not be so consumed by what was next that was preventing me from being present with what is. I had to learn how to allow what was arising to exist, even if I didn't like it. I had to learn not to distract myself just because I didn't want to deal with something. And I'll say it again, I had to learn how to slow down. I had to recognize that being on autopilot wasn't serving me, and that I'd been using it as a tool for coping and trying to maintain a sense of safety and control in a world I otherwise felt was really scary. I so wish I knew then what I know now. And when I say then, I really mean as a teenager and in my early 20s. And yet here's the paradox. I love the life that I have. And even when I was confused and unfulfilled and unaware, I still had a great life. It's just hard to separate out the choices I made out of fear, because I made a lot of choices out of fear. To be honest, I have very few regrets in my life. Honestly, when I think back, I think I really only have one. So I've told you that I was dependent on my mom and that I was afraid of something bad happening. Well, the one place outside my home that I felt safe, where I felt secure and confident to be me outside my stories, was the summer camp I went to. It was a Jewish camp in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and it really was my home away from home. It was the place that the friends I made felt like family, even after knowing them for only 2 days, which was an experience I had never had with friends anywhere else in my life. It was a place I felt like I fit in, that I was accepted, that I was free to be me without fear and anxiety taking over. I mean, it was crazy. I wasn't even ever able to sleep over at a friend's house, even next door to where I lived, without my mom having to come pick me up in the middle of the night. But I was able to go to camp for 3 weeks with no problem. And so, back to my regret, was that I never became a CIT, a counselor in training. All my friends and I had talked about it for years, that we were going to do this all together. And then, going into my freshman year of high school, I met my boyfriend. At that time, I didn't feel connected to many friends at school, and I was already pretty overweight, and I felt really secure that he liked me. And we became best friends. And, I didn't grow up with a dad. And he was really comfortable for me. He taught me things. I felt protected. I felt safe. I learned how to manage money. All the things that I really didn't know how to do. And yet, like I said, we became best friends and we started dating. So that following summer, after we started going out and I was going into 10th grade, he was going into 11th, he came to camp with me. And while it was awesome, it also shifted things for me. I didn't have the same experience with my friends that summer because I had shifted all my attention to him. And then it was the following summer the summer before he left for college, that I decided to not become a CIT. That way I was able to stay home with him for the summer before he left. I mean, literally, I was fearing him leaving for college over 2.5 years before he actually did. And now that the time was there was no way I was going to be at camp all summer. But all my camp friends went anyway and had a great time being CITs. And while in the moment I did what I thought was right for me, staying home for the summer to be with him, it also turned out to be my one regret. Because it was the first conscious choice I made out of fear. I was too scared not to be with him, that I even gave up something for myself that I had wanted for years. I had feared being alone. I feared us breaking up. I feared how to survive a school year without him. And so the biggest part of me, my camp life, I chose to give up. I knew I was in cognitive dissonance, which, by the way, cognitive dissonance is my favorite word I learned in grad school. It means that you're out of alignment with what you feel and what you think. Or another way of saying that, with your head and your heart. And I think it was my favorite word I had learned because it was something I often experienced. But I didn't know what to do with it. And that was the first of many times I felt a lack of alignment between how I felt and what I did. And whenever I was at that crossroads, whenever I was experiencing that cognitive dissonance, I often went with my head and let go of my feelings. I thought that going with what was logical was the right choice. And I've learned that logic, while might be right on paper, is not always going to bring your heart peace. It took me years to learn what to do with my cognitive dissonance. I mean, do you know what I'm talking about? Do you know what this feels like? What do you normally do when this happens? Well, I can tell you that I finally stumbled upon the solution. And this is where meditation comes in. Meditation is the practice that allowed me to sit with what is and practice a new response pattern to it. It allowed me to observe those thoughts and observe the feelings I was having and not having to decide right away which was right or wrong. But I was able to allow for the first time for them to coexist and then sit with it. I told you I teach in a way that I wish I could have learned, and how I teach meditation is no different. When I first started learning to meditate, I thought I was going to die. Literally, I can tell you the very first class I ever took, I had to sit still in silence and was told to just focus on my breath for 10 minutes. It was honestly the longest 10 minutes of my life. I thought I might die, honestly. I mean, I say that jokingly, but it just went on forever. And I didn't really know what I was supposed to do. I just was told, focus on your breath. And I don't think I had ever sat for that long, like ever. But the good news is, I didn't die from it. I got through it. And even still, years after learning meditation, like I've said before, took me time to learn how to integrate and actually relate to it as something I could do and something that would benefit me. I used to think that meditation meant I was supposed to have a clear mind, that I was going to feel peaceful and calm, and that I would feel all zen-like and relaxed afterwards. I thought I was going to have no thoughts, and that I'd be able to have razor-sharp focus and feel clarity and feel renewed and refreshed. And boy, was I wrong. Those are all lovely intentions, but it's not always going to happen, and especially not in the beginning of a meditation practice. I heard a quote once, "There's no such thing as enlightened people, only enlightened moments." And this is really true, especially when we meditate. We can often think at the end of a meditation, oh, that was a really good meditation. But what does that even mean? that we were able to stay focused, that we didn't get flooded with thoughts and emotions, that we could be able to replicate the experience. No, I just think a good meditation means we were able to show up in the moment. So the key around developing a meditation practice is to have no ego around it. Experience it as if for the first time that you've ever done it, and don't have an expectation on what it's supposed to look like. Okay, so what does meditation even mean? This is how I define it. I define meditation as creating the space for stillness and silence to allow whatever's arising to exist without judgment. Let me say that again. Creating the space for stillness and silence to allow whatever is arising to exist without judgment. This is so much easier said than done. But it means to slow down, connect with your breath as an anchor to the present moment, allow whatever is coming up, whether that's thoughts, emotions, sensations in your body, distractions around you. Notice them, be aware of it, acknowledge it, and then come back to your focus of attention, which is usually your breath. For now, I'll refer to the breath as the object of attention for meditation. But in reality, there can be many objects of attention. And we'll talk more about that another time. But for right now, the breath is what will serve as that anchor for you to come back to keep you in the present moment, to keep you grounded when distracted, and to give you something to focus your mind and your body on. So it really is that easy. Well, it feels that easy, but yet meditation can be the hardest thing to do. Why? Because we're always in resistance of what's hard. And slowing down and accepting what is arising is fucking hard. We are often in the habit of ignoring, denying, resisting, over-justifying, or overcompensating for what's not working. Meditation forces us to hold up the mirror and look at ourselves. And when we do that, the practice is to do it with compassion and not judgment, and see it as it's just what is. There's a phrase that I often say, and it's, quote, this, just this. It doesn't mean to negate whatever this is. It's a reminder that we tend to over-attach to whatever this is. When we can see things as they are, without judgment or attachment, the easier it is to deal with them. And this concept is something that I will talk about again and again. So remember, if this is all new to you, consider this an introduction and the foundation. So, meditation. Without meditation, all of this is just conceptual. But as neuroscience tells us, in order to create change, we need experience-dependent neuroplasticity, which is a fancy way of saying that we have to actually do something different in order to rewire a new response pattern. So I often get asked the difference between mindfulness and meditation. And people often confuse the two words and use them interchangeably. And for me, this doesn't really feel quite accurate. So while there might be some overlap, they're actually quite different. So when you think about the word meditation, what is it that comes to mind? What is it you expect or think it's actually all about? You know, I often find that people have many misconceptions, preconceptions, judgments about what meditation is or is not. People often think of you having to sit in a certain position, cross-legged with your hands in a mudra, eyes closed. And while that can be a very typical posture for meditation, it's not necessarily necessary in order for you to meditate. So I'm going to break it down. Again, going back to that difference between mindfulness and meditation. Meditation is what I consider to be the formal practice, while mindfulness is the informal practice. So this means that meditation is what we are doing to, again, create the space, to slow down, to allow whatever is arising to exist, to create stillness, to create silence, where we can observe what's arising and let it go. Come back to that breath or that focal point of attention. Mindfulness is considered to be the informal practice. It's what we do in our everyday life that we bring into our interactions, to our conversations, to our presence in whether it's our work, or our relationships, or our chores, whatever it is we're doing. Remember I said before, mindfulness is a way of being. So our meditation practice helps inform our mindfulness practice. It sets the stage. Because in order to be more mindful, we have to be aware of our habits, our patterns, the things that aren't working for us. Again, when we're not aware, when we're not being present, when we're being on autopilot. So I look at meditation as the practice for all those things. Because when you're sitting in meditation, everything is going to come up for you. Every frustration you're experiencing, all of your thoughts, different emotions, difficulties you're experiencing in your life, difficulties or pain in your body. If you're experiencing any chronic pain or tension or tightness, they're going to get magnified. So during meditation, it's an opportunity to respond differently to whatever's arising. That's again where we come back to our breath and allow us an ability to respond and not react. When we can do that in meditation, it's easier to do in our everyday life. So again, meditation is the formal practice, mindfulness is the informal. People often think there's a goal of meditation. And as soon as you have a goal going into it, a goal is an attachment to some future outcome. And as soon as you go into meditation, focusing on a goal, you are now focused on the future, which is inherently taking you out of the present moment. So there really is no goal of meditation. Really, it's the intention to just show up and do it. If you've set the intention to create that space for stillness and silence and focusing on your breath and allowing whatever's arising to come up without judgment but with self-compassion, you have 100% completed the intention of meditation. It's not supposed to look any one which way. In fact, it can be really, really hard even when you're a seasoned practitioner. You might have meditations where you're able to tune into your body and be more present and tune out distractions. And you might have other times where you are distracted by every thought, every sound, every sensation in your body, and you just can't seem to focus. And that is still a good meditation because you set the intention for it. So again, this is all a foundation. We will be talking a lot more about different ways to meditate. Again, we'll talk the differences between mindfulness and meditation. But I wanted to give you that understanding that meditation is the foundation for which you can be able to create change because it's the practice for allowing whatever's arising to come up and practicing responding in a different way. And that different way is going to be a way of acceptance, of allowing, of not having an attachment to the outcome, of being present, of having that awareness, attention, and intention, of having self-compassion. These are all the basic tools that we're wanting to build upon. So where can you start? Well, like I said, I thought I was going to die the first time I had to sit still for 10 minutes. I knew that wasn't going to work for me, so I want to set you up for success. So start in a way that you'll be able to maintain and connect with. So for me, what I actually did was I started meditation in my car. I was looking for times where I already had space, that I could create silence and connect with my breath. Now, of course, I kept my eyes open, but I would turn off the radio, put down my phone, and just breathe and be aware of my surroundings. And to me, that was how I started meditation. And I noticed that whenever I got to where I was going, I felt calmer. I felt more present. I didn't feel as rushed. And that felt really good. And that made me want to continue to try meditation and a more formal practice. So I began sitting, and I started really, really small, maybe for just 1 or 2 minutes. So if I made it attainable for myself, something I could set myself up for success, I was more likely to continue it rather than say, this is too hard, I don't have the time, I can't do this, forget about it, I'll just go back to my old habits and patterns. So look for the opportunities throughout your day to slow down, create stillness, create silence, connect with your breath, allow whatever is arising to come up, observe it without judgment, rather with self-compassion, and come back to that anchor. And that's it. There's no other goal. There's no other way it's supposed to be, and allow it to be what it is. And when you can start to do this, what's going to happen is your tendency to believe all your thoughts, to get caught up in reactions, will begin to slow down. And your choices will be able to be made with more awareness, more consciousness, be in alignment of who you are in the here and now. And I just wish if I had had a meditation practice in high school, I get really curious about how would I have made different choices? It may have impacted my decisions and it may have not. But looking back on the one thing that I regret and noticing that I made choices out of fears of the unknowns and the what ifs, I really wish I had had some more information to be able to trust in myself, not believe all my thoughts, not live such out of fear and anxiety of the unknown. And who knows, maybe it would have altered the outcome, maybe it wouldn't have. All I can say is I'm at least happy that I have the tools that I have now. Remember, we don't want to have cognitive dissonance with all of our decisions. We want to feel we have a clear, conscious yes to whatever it is we're doing, or a clear, conscious no. And to have that alignment requires us to slow down. So for your prompt today, your practice, consider what meditation means to you. Be curious about your own, again, judgments, misconceptions, preconceptions, and see if you can just notice them and not give in to them. And practice creating the space for stillness and silence, connecting with your breath. And you can start observing your tendencies, and from there you'll be able to make more informed choices of what to do next. Thanks for tuning in. I look forward to connecting with you next time.
To continue your journey forward, find Jory Rose on Facebook and Instagram to become part of her growing community. You can also gain access to her meditations, books, online classes, or to sign up for an upcoming retreat, visit her at joryrose.com. That's JOREEROSE.com.